It doesn't mean like the AI bubble is going to pop on Monday morning. No, that's not what I'm saying. Yo, so I was wrong, man. The market crashed on Monday morning. In fact, a couple hours after I posted the last video, the futures market opened and just completely tanked. It was actually it was a gap and trap. And luckily for me, I mean, I had a huge short position through long volatility in UVXY. And when the market opened, I just like cashed out, right? A nice chunk of change. And I realized what I want to do on these episodes is actually talk about what I got wrong and what I got right. Because number one, it's good for me to actually have a record of things that I did well and did not do well, so I can learn from my mistakes and improve on them. The other thing is it's also good for you folks watching, because there are a lot of people out there who will say, hey, remember I said that? See, I was right. And it's just not real, right? Because there's a lot of things people get wrong because nobody's perfect and they never talk about what they got wrong. So there's that lack of trust and authenticity, basically, of what the hell is going on. So I wanted to just start talking about what I got right and wrong every episode in my weekly uploads, so that it helps both you and also helps me. So yeah, I got that totally wrong, but there are a couple of things that I did get right in last week's video, and one of them is what happened with bonds. Now, if you recall in my last video, I said that the bonds would face a correction. And basically, if we look at what happened last week, bonds did actually make what it looks like an intermediate top. And so, as I mentioned, I did think that it was going to go down, and I think the coming week it's going to continue to go down. Now, is it going to make a double bottom here and then go up? Well, that's something that we have to see. But make no mistake, I continue to hold the position that we're in a corrective phase here, and after that initial pop, after this move up, I do think now we're going to go back down, and the question is, are we going to make a higher low? Or are we going to retest the previous bottom and do a double bottom move up? That remains to be seen, but generally it's going to go down next week. So, and it started last week. And so that's something I did get right. Now, the other thing I also talked about last week was how I thought the dollar was going to bounce off of what was previous resistance to the upside, and now that resistance has become support. And so now if we come and look at what was going on with the dollar, and like I've been saying, this line has been resistance for multiple years, and that as a result, when it was broken, now should become support. Well, lo and behold, last week, if we zoom in, we went down. I said we were going to go down and touch or come close to what was previous resistance, and we did exactly that. And I also said I don't think we're going to crash through that, because 2 years of boiling through this trading range and breaking out of it, that's going to mean there's a lot of support here, right? And sure enough, after we pretty much nailed it, we came back up. And so I did get that right. And I do think we are going to continue to keep going up here, right? Now, so the question with a dollar is, we're probably going to go up and test the previous high that was over here, right? This high, we're probably going to go up and test it. Most likely. And that's the thing. What's going to happen when we go up and test that high? Are we going to go test it, get a little down, make a lower high? I mean a lower low rather, and then break out? If that happens on that and we break the previous high, that is a extremely bullish signal for the dollar, meaning we're in an intermediate to long-term dollar bull, right? And I do think something like that is going to happen. If you zoom out, this could potentially do that, go up here, down, and then potentially go up and challenge the previous all-time high. And when that happens, that'll be a very interesting thing. But as we know, strong dollar is not good for the markets, right? You don't want the dollar to be strong counterintuitively. I've said this time and again. It's when everybody starts clamoring for a dollar, things aren't good around the world. The third thing I did get right was I said next week, which now has ended, was going to be a corrective week, and that we would have a correction, and that I was positioned short, net short through UVXY long volatility, and that the market would correct after having, shot up quite a bit. And that I did get right, because if we look at, what happened last week, if we look in, let's say, the futures market, where I spend most of my time looking, we definitely had a correction. So what happened? Well, we had this tremendous gap down and fill on the DeepSeek news. And I cashed out on market open and pocketed a good amount of change there. And I did not participate in this, buy the dip rally. So there are a lot of buy the dip. There's a lot of buy the dip. Oh, great time to buy Nvidia, and I did not participate in it because I don't think this downturn, this corrective move is over. It's too quick, too soon, too abrupt. But there are a lot of people who are telling me, hey, it's a good time to buy Nvidia on this. It's just a news event, and AI is not bubble's not popping, and so let them buy, right? Well, they bought, and now they got hammered on Friday. If you look at Nvidia, it's back to kind of like where it was, right? So let's zoom into Nvidia over here. Yeah, it went down. It went quite a hell way down and went up. And people are like, oh, we're going to go back up. No, we're not. We're back down here. We're near where we were, guys. And that's kind of what I didn't want to participate in, right? So I avoided all that. If you were a dip buyer there, you're faced with a pretty interesting situation now. One that I would not want to be in, which is exactly why I did not join. So if we go back to the futures market for the S&P, the S&P now kind of moved up, right? Because it was more of like an AI crash or a tech crash than the overall markets, which include all the other industries. And it did bounce up quite a bit, right? And we went all the way up here. This is, near the all-time high, but we didn't make it up there. And that's when I knew. That's when that was all she wrote. So I again loaded a lot of UVXY, this time almost $100,000 worth of UVXY on Thursday at the session close before Friday began. And what happened when Friday began? Well, we went up and we dumped, right? And we dumped because of the Trump tariff trade war emerging, right? The fake news by Reuters saying that it was delayed. No, it wasn't delayed. They came out, the White House came out, spokeslady came out and said it's happening on Saturday, and sure enough, Saturday has transpired and Trump has signed it. And so we are entering, this basically tariff trade war. And we'll talk a little bit about that in the coming minutes here. So I did get the correction right. I did make a good amount of cash last week, getting that call right. It's not about just getting the call right. It's also about trading around it, right? Your entry and exit points. And that's really what trading is about. Not getting the call right, but trading around whatever you're saying. Because you'll never get the call right all the time. No, you won't. But if you know how to trade around the wrong and the right call, over time, you're going to be making good profits. So now I'd like to talk, now everybody's talking about DeepSeek. Okay. So I don't want to harp on DeepSeek too much, but I do want to talk about a few things and to cap off the whole thing. Now, the first thing I wanted to bring to attention here is that, and I live in Singapore, okay? So I'm in the country of question, right? I'm not some rando in the United States over here. Now, NVIDIA, okay, in green is what you see the market, how much percent of total global revenue of NVIDIA is going into Singapore, right? And Singapore is a very tiny city-state nation, okay? It's not a big country. And back in 2023, it was, as you could imagine, a small sliver, and that kind of remained the case until around 2024, and it just kept on growing. It's interesting how in Q4 2024 there wasn't kind of like a blackout. And but basically, it's kept growing as a percent share of the total revenue. And now it's almost a quarter at 22%, 25% is a quarter. That's at 22% of total revenue, right? And so you need to ask yourself, what is Singapore doing with all the chips? Well, obviously they're not using all the chips. It's too hot to build 5 million data centers here. You're going to have a cooling. It's just not efficient cooling in the middle of the equator. But there are a lot of multinational companies or companies with offices here where the revenue comes here and the chips get sent somewhere else. And so the question is, sure, the money came to Singapore under some whatever subsidiary or shell company, but where are the chips actually being sent to? Where are literally the physical chips going? Forget about where the money is paid. And that is a question being raised. Now, this is not something new. I've actually been talking about and observing this for almost 2 years now, around when it began, right? So I'm not, there are a lot of Johnny-come lately talking about this and NVIDIA and Singapore and distribution chips. I've been watching this for quite a while now. And in fact, I even posted this on LinkedIn where, back then, this was almost 2 years, a year and 3/4 ago, I was saying 15% was coming into, what are we doing with all these chips, right? And, I posted from their 10K. That's how I noticed, was because in their SEC filings, you could see, and therefore they have to disclose this information. And I was like, dude, what is going on here? And that generated quite a few posts. You can see it on LinkedIn if you want to go. But basically, I've been following and watching this, so this is not new to me, but it is new to a lot of people. And so now the U.S. is probing if DeepSeek got NVIDIA chips from firms in Singapore. NVIDIA says it complies with laws. Singapore accounts for 20% of revenue. Okay, so now suddenly everybody's talking about this. And then, Trump calls Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, and he met with him, right, yesterday, over the weekend, to talk about things. And what he probably said? He's probably said, bro, dude, it's not about money anymore, okay? We're talking about national security. So you gotta, I'm gonna tell you right now that that's the case, and you gotta fall in line, right? So in other words, you're not, cash flow, income, revenue, all that profit stuff, not as important anymore. And Trump basically told him face to face that that's going to be the case. And, in an interview after he met with Jensen over the weekend, what Trump said basically was that tariffs are coming for chip makers. He said, where are the chips made? Actually, it's not NVIDIA's making the chips, right? It's in Taiwan, right? Taiwan's making the chips because they used to actually technology from Europe. The fabrication technology comes from Europe, right? And they have that in Taiwan, and they make the chips there, and then they send it to NVIDIA in the States. And Trump's going to apply tariffs on that. So you know what that means, right? I'm not going to have to explain to you what that means, but we all know what that means. So is that good or bad for NVIDIA? I mean, use your common sense and at me once NVIDIA has a new all-time high again, because until NVIDIA has a new all-time high again, the top has been in. Now, for fun, as an experiment, I actually asked DeepSeek where all the chips that were built to Singapore were being sent to, actually. And this is what DeepSeek said, and it cracks me up. Here's the answer. Wait, but if the revenue is billed in Singapore and the sales are routed through Singapore for tax reasons, but the actual shipment goes to another location, it then gave me an example of China. For example, a company in China might buy the chips through NVIDIA's Singapore subsidiary, but the chips are shipped directly to China. That cracks me up. I mean, basically, DeepSeek knows how it was made, right? Oh God, this cracked me up. But anyway, I just want to share that tidbit with you. I probably laughed for a good 10 minutes after I got this Chinese example from DeepSeek about where the chips are being sent. Okay, so moving along now, the second thing or shoe to drop was the whole Trump tariff trade thing, and that's why the markets kind of tanked on Friday when it came out that Reuters delay was fake news. And why is the market tanking? Well, I mean, the narrative is, well, it's going to increase inflation. I want to set something straight here. It's not going to increase inflation because everybody's definition of inflation has been jumbled up in their heads ever since, 20 years ago, or actually 30 years ago even. Inflation is nothing more than the inflation or the increase of the money supply. Basically, you print or create more money. And that is what inflation is. It's, inflate, right? Like a bubble, like a balloon. You inflate more money. Okay, that's what inflation is. Now, that can result in higher prices as a result of more money chasing the same amount of goods. Not necessarily, but usually that's the result of it. And that's why you have something called the Consumer Price Index to measure the increase of prices. But that is not inflation, okay? So let's just get that out of the way. Now, with tariffs, okay, the consumer price index or prices of things may go up, at least in the short term. And this is what's spooking the market. Basically, what's going on, with the whole, if you start off with Mexico, Canada, and China, China hasn't responded yet, but both Mexico and Canada have come up with their countermeasures, basically initiating a trade war with the United States, right? And that's going to increase prices in the short run. Yes, it will, because you have tariffs slapped on. So companies, when they import the stuff from Mexico, Canada, or China, are going to have to pay higher prices. It goes to the government. Yes, it's another form of taxation. And before there was income tax, there was tariffs as a way for the government to make money. Yes, we know all that. And these companies are eventually going to pass some of that higher cost to the consumer, to the buyer. They will, right? They will. They're not going to eat that high cost 100%. No, they aren't. They're going to pass probably a good portion of that increase in cost to the consumer, and that will result in higher prices, right, to the buyer. That's just the way it's going to work. But is this forever? No, it's a short run. And if you run game theory on this, and I've read other people who have run their own game theory on it, it's good for the short run, but it's not a long run thing. In the long run, what's going to happen? In the short run, these other countries, they're going to have to comply, right? They can't fight the U.S. It's the largest market, largest economy. They have the reserve currency of the status of the dollar. Like, the list goes on and on. They can't, right? So they're just going to eat it, right? But in the long run, what it's going to do, kind of like what happened with DeepSeek, right? You take away the chips, they're going to find another way. These other countries, if you keep doing this tariff thing and it doesn't, it's a long-term thing, the other countries, they're going to find other ways to get around it and reduce their reliance on the United States as a marketplace, so on and so forth, so that they're going to circumvent these tariffs over time. If you give them time, they'll figure out ways. And so that's basically the setup, right? So the question becomes how permanent or how temporary are these tariffs? And that remains to be seen, because nobody knows what's in Trump's head. Not even he does, I don't think, know what's going to happen, whether it's short term or long term. And this is something that we're just going to have to watch and see. And this uncertainty is something that the market does not like. So what that means is, there's a lot of the narrative of higher prices, which, people incorrectly call higher inflation, higher interest rates. This is why the bond, the bond yield might have to go up even higher, and the dollar might go strong. This all ties in together with the narrative, right, of what I'm trying to tell you, what's going to be happening here. So what is next? So we had DeepSeek, we had the Trump tariff, and so like the thumbnail said, what's the third shoe to drop? Well, it's not a shoe to drop, right? It's actually what's happening in the gold market. And I haven't talked about gold. I'm a huge gold bug, and I've been telling you I have by far the largest amount of my savings in physical gold bars for the long haul. And gold, I think, is going to be something that is worthy of a number 3, right? So what's going on with gold? Well, on Friday there was this huge uproar about how the London, exchange. So the Bank of England, they store gold, right? And you can claim back your gold. You can give them notice, and they should return your gold within a very short period of time. However, what happened was all of a sudden, the Bank of England now says it's going to take 1 to 2 months. You want your gold? You got to wait 1 to 2 months, and that's questionable, right? We don't know if 1 to 2 months really, right? They're just saying that to give them time to figure out what the heck to do, honestly. It's not that they're going to give it to you in 1 to 2 months. They need that 1 to 2 months to figure out what the heck to do. And why is this a problem, right? And it's because there's this wait to withdraw as Trump tariffs drive shipment to the U.S. So everybody's trying to ship the gold before the tariff comes into play to the United States, right? So that they don't get hit with the tariffs. And that has caused this problem with the Bank of England. And this is a big issue right now. So if you look at this, right? If you look at this, both silver and gold, the amount of stock in the New York, so people shoving it to the New York warehouses, right, has skyrocketed. Look at this, right? This tells you People are sending their physical bullion and physical silver to New York, right? To the US because of the tariffs. Now, this in and of itself is newsworthy, right? I mean, look, the gold market is one of the most manipulated markets on the planet, right? It's just like the LIBOR interest rates. Every morning they come together, these traders, and they set the price. I mean, if you actually know how the market works. Anyway, that's what interest rates. But I'm talking about gold here, and it's similar. There's a lot of like price setting in the spot price markets with these huge exchanges, primarily United States and England, where they figure out what to do with spot prices, COMEX Gold and Bank of England. Anyway, this has ruptured something between the two. And what is going on now is in London, at least, because all the gold's gone to the US or trying to get to the US before the tariff, that has now like ripped open this band-aid, because kind of like Bank of England has been caught with no shorts, right? The emperor has no clothes. Because what they do is they lease out the gold to make money. It's kind of like fractional banking, right? You take money from somebody and you lend it out and you keep a certain percent. It's kind of the same thing with Bank of England. They have some gold bullion and they lend it out and they keep just a small percentage. And they've been doing that and happy making money. And all of a sudden all the gold went to the US, and now people in London demanding the gold back out of Bank of England, they don't got it, right? It's kind of like a bank run, if you will, but it's not cash, it's gold. It's like a gold run. And this is actually pretty significant. It's like, I don't know, it's like the biggest news in gold probably in like decades, right? Effectively, what is going on and what we're witnessing is the Bank of England defaulting, right, on its gold. Which is crazy if you think about it. They don't have enough gold to give back to people who are demanding it. And so they just said, look, take 1 to 2 months, but really they need 1 to 2 months to figure out what the heck to do, right? So they're hoping in desperation they're going to make some deal with somebody, with anybody, to grab some gold back so that they can, within 1 to 2 months, somehow give the gold to the demanding customers, right? This is not a good situation. And all that's going to do, okay, I'm not going to tell you either. You know what that's going to do to the price of gold, right? So we have this gold situation, and I think that's the third thing that's worthy of number 3 on the list, especially because I'm a gold bug, right? And look, gold has been great to me, right? A huge chunk of my life saving is in gold, and it's made over 40% in the past year alone. A couple of years I've had it, it's gone over 50%. So it's a lot better than everybody tells me to buy a house. I'm like, no, man, you should be buying gold, man. I don't want to deal with a liquid asset and deal with all the complex paperwork and taxes around property. Forget that, man. I'll just buy gold. There's no tax on anything, and it's completely liquid. So the last thing I want to talk about is how I'm positioned in the market for the next week. And I do think in the next week, we are going to continue the corrective move that I said would start the week before. And what that means is we're probably going to go down. Now, are we going to break through what was the previous low on the DeepSeek news? I actually do think we may break below that. And the question then becomes, if we do go below this purple line, which I put down, that's where things get choppy. I will actually exit. If we go down all the way here, I'm going to exit my short positions, take profit, and see what happens. Maybe even go long, because over here, what's going to happen past the previous low, this is where all the Johnny-come-lately bears will start going short. Everybody's panicking. Oh, we're going to go down, down, down. We're just going to keep going down. And that's what the herd is going to think, right? And that's exactly where, the sharks will just rip your face off and actually execute what will probably take us to new all-time highs, the final blow off top before everything unravels. And, I don't want to be caught with that. So if we continue to go down and actually go all the way down, going beyond what was the DeepSeek bottom and go down to the purple line I have here, right? And in here, I'm looking to take profit and not continue to be short. And everybody, if we go down there, people are going to panic and they're going to enter short right around here, thinking we're going to just go down. And those are the people who are going to get their faces ripped off, right? And all the dip buyers are going to get you know, scared out of there. So they're going to sell everything. That's going to cause this waterfall drop down here. And the dip buyers are going to lose. Anybody who bought this thing is going to lose, you know, and then especially when you go below here, they're going to continue selling. That's what's going to cause this whole panic, which is exactly when you want to do the opposite of the herd and actually go long. Now, it takes a lot of guts and big kahunas to do that, you know, but that's what trading is, right? You know, follow the herd. Following the herd is not how you make the big buckaroos. So that's how I'm positioned for next week. Let's see how it plays out. You know, as I said earlier, I have this huge 100K position in UVXY over the weekend going into Monday market open. Let's see how that transpires, and you know, I'll probably adjust as, you know, day by day blows happen. And I'm thinking about actually giving more updates, because a weekly update, I don't know, a lot of stuff happened, and if you're watching this and you want more updates, let me know. I might consider doing intro week updates. Got to figure out where I'm going to put it, whether it be in a YouTube short or some other platform where I can do quick hits. But do let me know if you think that it might be helpful for you as we continue to make money, riding this final bull off top before, you know, the bear market begins, because we make money both ways. And if you like this video and this type of content, do me a favor, hit the like button so, you know, more people can join us on this journey, and also subscribe to the channel so you can get more updates as we navigate these crazy markets. Till next time, peace out.